Welcome back, fight fans, to another video here on The Fight Game. Canelo Alvarez is often referred to as being the absolute best in the sport of boxing. However, the task of being the pound-for-pound best is a tall order, and Canelo's last opponent was his tallest yet. Recently, Canelo Alvarez didn't only beat but battered and bruised the brave Callum Smith in the super middleweight division on DAZN. It was an exemplary performance from Canelo. He showed a snappy jab, aggressive slipping, and ferocious attacks. The variation of attacks Canelo uses makes him one of the most unpredictable, unbeatable fighters to date. He's very hard to push back as he uses his footwork effectively to maintain his position. He's very hard to hit because he moves his head unconditionally, and he's very hard to outbox because he's usually the better boxer. The fashion, however, leaves many fans dissatisfied, not because the fans don't want to see Canelo win, but because they want to see his will tested. They want to see someone push him to his limits, as when a boxer is tested, his true character is revealed. Since the Golovkin fights, Canelo has further improved, and has yet to face an opponent who's on the same level as him. But that's not Canelo's fault, for his last three opponents were the incredibly skilled Daniel Jacobs, the much heavier Sergey Kovalev, and now the much taller and in his prime Callum Smith. So if Canelo beats guys of that caliber with ease, you have to ask what kind of a man it would take to actually deal a loss to the Mexican superstar. Canelo solidified his place in the Hall of Fame long ago, but now he works towards staking his claim of being called one of the greatest of all time. When we look at great Mexican fighters, we see their heart, will, determination right there between those four corners. Since Golovkin, Canelo hasn't had the opportunity to do that. Canelo's last three fights were good, but they were no match to the exhilarating two-fight affair with middleweight champion Gennady Golovkin. So we have to ask, who can possibly match Canelo not only in skill, but strength and toughness? One choice may come as a surprise to many fans, but a fantasy matchup with welterweight champion Errol Spence may be the answer to that question. Boxing is, after all, a contest of skill and will, so it wouldn't actually make sense for size to be such a significant factor in a fight. Smaller fighters have been beating bigger fighters for generations. What actually really matters is combat, boxing intelligence, and what one can do with their hands. To those skeptical of this actually happening, both Canelo and Spence have said they are willing to fight. If such a fight is to happen, we'd likely see Spence move up to the 160-pound division and Canelo moving back down. It would be a crazy situation, sure, but boxing has done crazy many times before. This matchup is highly interesting, because for the first time since Golovkin, Canelo would have an opponent who can match him in skill. Errol Spence is also a fighter who works best on the inside as opposed to middle and long distance. This is something Canelo has not seen before, and it would be a facet of combat in which he may be matched in for the first time in his whole career, as Canelo is an excellent inside fighter himself. Spence would be giving up weight, but he is a big 147-pounder. A fight between Canelo Alvarez and Errol Spence would sure capture the world's attention, with so much similarity to when Pacquiao went up in weight to face Oscar de la Hoya. Often the most famous fights are those between boxers in different weight classes. Canelo was a 154-pounder when they talked about him fighting Golovkin. Mayweather was a 147-pounder when they talked about him fighting Canelo. Errol Spence is undefeated, young, strong, skillful, and definitely equipped to give Canelo a good fight. Spence's inside fighting abilities would limit the effectiveness of Canelo's head movement. Close quarters combat is an area where Canelo has never truly been matched, and in my opinion, it would be the most significant factor from a technical point of view. However, the Canelo that fought Mayweather is a whole other version when compared to the beast he is now. He truly looks unbeatable, and sometimes a boxer's match comes from places you least expect. That place might be the 147-pound division with Errol Spence. For now, it's just speculation, but it's definitely interesting to think about. There are other fights available for Canelo. He has expressed his desire to become the undisputed super middleweight champion. However, most would agree he's likely to achieve that quite comfortably. Boxing continues to move forward into a new era. Many people forget that Canelo is still so young at only 30 years old. There's no doubt he's making sure he takes on the best opponents in the prime of his career as he chases down that glorious title, GOAT status. What do you guys think? Is Errol Spence the man to beat Canelo Alvarez, or is someone else? Let us know in the comments section below. We'll see you in the next video here on The Fight Game.